fielding a lot of questions this week because there are a lot of headlines in the news like this one here. What is going on with the way that real estate agents are getting paid? So first and foremost, I'm a loan officer. I'm coming from the lender side of the puzzle. We have to make sure buyers are pre-approved. We have to make sure they're going to be able to get that mortgage when the time comes. And part of that is making sure that they have sufficient funds to close. That's going to include closing costs, their down payment, and possibly the way that they pay their real estate agent. So this is not a time for anybody to panic, right? Change happens and everybody's going to be okay. Let's just try to break it down a little bit, at least from what I'm understanding of how this is going to work out. This is a new agreement that's actually going into effect today, August 17th. So we'll see how it all pans out. But I also want to say that a really similar thing happened to loan officers back in 2013. There's a loan officer compensation rule, and you can look it up on the CFPB website. And loan officers have to be paid in a specific way, and we have to disclose to the consumers using specific disclosures. That, in my opinion, is basically what this entails. Real estate agents now have to disclose in a specific way, and it's just more transparency to the consumer. It doesn't really change in practice the way that anybody is making money. And again, that's to be seen because this is all kind of new. But previously, and still now, when you make an offer, if you're a buyer, let's say you're going to buy a house and you want to offer $500,000 on the property, and that seller is using a listing agent. The seller has agreed with the listing agent how much compensation the listing agent will make off of that sale. Typically, it was kind of assumed that if the buyer was brought to the seller by a buyer's agent, if they had representation with a buyer's agent, then the buyer's agent and listing agent would split that commission that the seller had agreed to. And the buyer didn't necessarily know exactly what that was going to be up front when they first started looking for houses with their buyer's agent. It was all kind of more handshake. So now this agreement is proposing that the buyer should know right from the beginning, before their realtor even lets them in to see the very first house they're considering, what that buyer's agent is expecting to receive. Now, that buyer's agent could get compensated still by the seller's listing agent, just like often happened previously, or they could get paid directly from their buyer, or a combination, right? Now, that's always something that could have happened before. You as a buyer could have said, hey, I want to just pay you directly, buyer's agent, and I don't want the seller to pay you. I want to just pay you out of my own pocket. That could happen before. So there's no real difference. It's just a matter of how everything's being disclosed. And from the lending side of the puzzle, what's really important for us is that we need to know what the plan is, because we've got to look at your financials and we've got to look at your bank account balances and your budget and make sure that you have enough in your savings to cover the down payment, the traditional closing costs, plus if you're not going to have the seller's side in some way or form cover your buyer's agent compensation, then you may need to factor that into your budget too. That's no different than what loan officers were doing in practice all along. If you're working with a good loan officer, they're going to walk you through. We do this as a part of our mortgage consultation. We're going to walk you through all of the costs that are involved. You're going to go back, you're going to communicate with your buyer's agent who you're working with. You're going to make sure that you understand what their costs could be, right? We're all going to talk together because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that you've got enough money in your bank account to cover whatever the costs are going to be. There's a whole other discussion going on about whether or not this is fair, how this impacts one group of people over another, and all of that. I don't want to get into that at this point. I just wanted to simply explain in process how it's going to work, and how I don't think the just baseline process of needing to do a buyer's agreement up front and having that disclosure is really going to change anything. It's so important for buyers to have representation, and my hope is that sellers realize that and that they still continue to offer the same type of compensation agreements that they were doing previously so that all buyers can have an equal chance at purchasing a property. I said I wasn't going to get into my opinion. I just got into my opinion a little bit. Nonetheless, contact us if you have any questions at all about what's going on. And most importantly, it's just got to be a part of your mortgage consultation and a part of your looking over your finances and making sure that you're comfortable knowing exactly what you're going to need out of pocket to purchase your new house.